Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Paradise Recreation and Park District Board of Directors regular meeting on March the 11th, 2026. Will you all please just stand and join with me with the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, everyone. Who's our clerk today, Mr. FCF? Oh, I think I hear the clerk walking this way. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Director John Stonebreaker.
Here.
We have Director Robert Anderson absent. We have Secretary Jolene Levy absent. Vice Chairperson Steve Rodwick. And Chairperson Alma Green.
Okay, let the record show that we have a quorum today in attendance, so we'll proceed. Next item on today's agenda is welcoming of guests. Welcome guests, those of you who are all here. And I see for the record that Director Levy has just arrived, so thank you for joining us. We'll just wait a couple minutes while she gets settled. Okay, moving on to item 2, public comment. Is there anyone in the audience this afternoon who wishes to state something to the board that is a non-agenda item? This is required under state law, gives you this option if you so wish to do so. Does anyone wish to have anything they want to share with the board today as a non-agenda item? Judging by the silence, and we'll just proceed. Next item on the agenda is consent agenda, of which we have 5 items on consent. Normally what we do is we act on those all as a package, unless a board member or staff requests that one of them be pulled off and addressed individually.
Mr. Chair, I did have a clarifying question on item 3.4 that I addressed to District Manager SF, and I wonder if he has a response to that.
I think it's most appropriate we pull it. We pull it from consent.
Okay, I elect to pull item 3.4 from consent.
Okay.
I'd like to pull item 3.1 from consent.
Okay, staff wishes 3.1 to be pulled and acted individually, and board member Roderick 3.4. Any other requests amongst board members for anything to be acted upon individually? If not, then what's the pleasure of the board on the remaining consent items 3.2, 3.3, and 3.5 and 3.6? Is there
Remaining consent items.
okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion that's been made and seconded to approve items 3.2, 3.3, 3.5, and 3.6. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Director John Stonebreaker.
Aye.
Secretary Jolene Levy. Aye. Vice Chairperson Steve Rodwick. And Chairperson Alma Green.
Aye.
Motion carries with 4 ayes.
Okay, let's move on to the first of which was pulled off of consent. Item 3.1, board minutes. Staff, you have some clarification you want to share with the board on that?
Yes, Jolene was present via Zoom last meeting and I had her as normal attendance. So just made that correction on the minutes.
So you want the board to approve that with that correction?
Yes, please.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I believe that Donna Bristol's comments were not there. Is that correct? That she was not listed as present?
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, I can go back and double check in my notes, but the public comment says Citizen Bristol who's not listed as present.
All right, let me just get to it so I can make the correction on the minutes. Okay, it's probably because she didn't sign in. So Donna Bristol made a comment.
Well, again, give me one moment to verify.
I have her on the January 14th minutes.
Correct. So
We've
she
already-
she attended and gave comment in January, but that was copied into the February minutes, even though she was not in attendance at that meeting.
Under,
So where I'm looking,
oh, got it. Okay. Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other corrections other than those two that have been pointed out? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
Consent? With changes?
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Okay. We have a motion that's been made and seconded to approve those minutes with those two corrections as presented. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Director John Stonebreaker,
aye.
Secretary Jolene Levy,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Steve Roderick, and Chairperson Alma Green.
Aye.
Motion carries with 4 ayes.
Very good. Next item we need to consider, Director Roderick, I believe you pointed out you have some concerns or questions about item 3.4.
The lack of any mention of covered warranty service for a brand new system?
Yeah, so there were two questions I thought. One was related to the option. And by the way, that it looks like the reports are flip-flopped in here. That should be a page earlier. But at least it's that way in my report. The 1-year maintenance option that is suggested is the lesser one. So the option 1, that's the one that is being proposed for this, the 1-year maintenance agreement. And the question I think you also had was they should be under warranty, but I think any repairs would be tied in if it's vandalism or repair or damage that's not covered under warranty. So that would be, we would certainly go after the warranty first.
Referred to the community center as a residence.
Yeah, and I think that's, we could finalize that. I think there's something else here. I mean, it just had, for example, district property. So, we
Okay.
need to fill in 877, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. I think there's some other things in there that need to be filled in. Yeah, so that's, we can change that. Is there anything else that you?
So if we, as a board, motion to approve this, it'll go through council, county council, district council?
It's a pretty easy maintenance agreement. And yeah, we can run it by
Okay.
her pretty quickly.
All right.
Okay, so let the record show that the question was answered relative to the proposal as submitted by Jesse Heating and Air Conditioning, that staff's recommending amongst those two options in that proposal, that it's the lesser of the two options.
Correct.
Cost-wise. And in clarification to Director Roderick, he pointed out that both the option proposed by Jesse Heating and Air Conditioning and apparently the draft of the service agreement makes reference to a residence, so that's going to be corrected accordingly if the board approves that today. Is there any other clarifications needed from board members on this? Okay, if not, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion 3.4 with the clarifications noted.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Very good. We have a motion that's made and seconded to approve item 3.4 as clarified and to be corrected. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Director John Stonebreaker,
Aye.
Secretary Jolene Levy,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Steve Roderick, and Chairperson Alma Green.
Aye.
Motion carries with 4 ayes.
Moving on, we have no committee reports on the agenda per se. And the reason being primarily is that neither of the two committees that were scheduled this past month occurred other than one of the committees only had one of the two board members present, so it was just basically dialogue on updates of things, but there's nothing really in detail to report, and the other committee did not meet at all, which was the Finance Committee. Old business, we have none scheduled today, so we'll move on to new business, item 6.1. Staff, you want to kick this off, please?
Yeah, so we're going to be kicking off a bunch of these requests for bids, requests for proposals coming up here related to construction. This one's related to pool repair. We did have a repair that did not work, and so we're putting it out to bid for a new approach on it, a little bit more formal, asking for bids. It'll be published in the paper. We lay out our process. We won't do this for all of them, but I think it's kind of a good reminder of how this process works for us for anything. It's 25K and over. We're running through that process right now. The materials attached, we have and again, this is out of order, but the bid material specifications on there start on, let's see, page 26. No. 22. So we have attached to here the resolution, our draft notice. We'd be very open to any clarifications or changes on that. And then also our request for bids that would go out there. So that information gives you kind of a complete package on it. We want to ensure that we have a good narrow focus on the repair for the Paradise Pool fiberglass repair. There will be a mandatory site walk. And then as we get those bids, we'll bring them back to the board for approval of that agreement. We hope to have a process in which it will take approximately 5 or 6 weeks for this work to be done. We do it in April, and provided all goes well, we'll be open for our opening, which is slated for public opening June 2nd. Oh, okay. So first part of June, I'll say. We do have teams that use our pool. And so we're trying to work with, and Jeff can probably speak to this too, but looking at potentially Durham pool, absorbing that for the short term and having those practices there. We'll have more to say when we get the package and bids back and bring that back to the board, but we'd like to release this for contractors to bid on. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, does the board have any questions or comments to share with the staff on this presentation and this agenda item?
Not to nitpick the spelling here, but it's sort of indicative that perhaps not everything has been looked at as closely as it can. And this is not my field. I can't talk about the details of how to fiberglass a pool. Just hope that as we put out additional requests for bids and requests for proposals, that somebody in-house is looking carefully to make sure that everything in the final contract is as you intend it to be.
The contract will be subject to, we do have a contract that Marcia has been working on, our legal counsel for construction in particular. So that's going to be what the intent is here. We will have a process where I think the way that we'll do this in the future, just so everybody knows, a home on our website that will be construction contract or something that's named generically, we'll refer to it by location, and then as it's updated and evolves, that same location will be active, but the content may be updated over time. So that's kind of something that will be a practice that we'll do on future ones that will be different than I think what we've done in the past. But if there's any it'll take a little time to get this noticed and then out online. If you guys have any typos that you caught, suggestions on that, please let us know as soon as you can. Certainly, I think the big pieces are there and it's ready to go. has been reviewed, but certainly open to any corrections that we need to make.
Well, if I understand your presentation correctly, the main thing you're asking us to do is adopt the resolution, which would then
Correct.
kick this work effort off. But, and while that work effort's underway, appropriate legal review will be conducted, as well as internal staff review. And any of us board members that would find anything subsequent to this meeting, ASAP, have to bring to your attention.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
and an important part of the process is this kicks off the request for bids. So the acceptance of those bids are
That comes later.
the duty of the board.
That comes later. So and given the situation with the pool, this is really of the essence. It's really important. So I know this is a
Agree.
very old facility, and I don't want to belabor this, but some misgivings occurred from a prior repair operation. So we'll just leave it at that, just so everybody knows. But so anyway, I think that answers my questions. Any other questions from the board?
This is tangential, but last meeting we clarified when the piranha season would normally be. So if this is going to interfere with them, not that it addresses this agenda item, but at some point we could clarify how that affects their lease agreement.
Yeah, and I know that we've started those conversations with them to come up with a remedy. Of course, we have our own training that we need to take into account, and that looks like it might be shifted either to the Concal pool or to possibly Durham. But we give an update on that next month, I think, because they're still outside their season, so we can
No, I agree regarding the urgency of getting the bids in and the repairs made as quickly as possible.
Any further comments from the board? Hearing none, we'll open up to the public. Is anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this agenda item, item 6.1? Judging from the silence, then we need to entertain an action. Board members, what's the pleasure of the board? Recommendation here is to adopt the resolution that's crafted with this agenda item to authorize the process to proceed.
I have 5 with regard to releasing the bid for the resurfacing for the request of bids.
Second.
Oh, very good. We have a motion that's been made and seconded by the board. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Director John Stonebreaker,
Aye.
Director Jolene Levy,
Aye. Vice
Chairperson Steve Rodwick,
Aye.
and Chairperson Alma Green.
Aye.
Motion carries with 4 ayes.
Okay, moving on to 6.2. Staff, again, would you be kind enough to kick that off for us, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That report's on page 43, and kind of goes over some of the basic issues. I think everyone's been following Lake Ridge property pretty closely, but the next evolution here is us looking at utilizing land that CHIP is using for their development that is slated for septic or future septic. And so there's an opportunity outside of those uses out there to have surface uses on it. So no footings, nothing that you're digging down and disrupting the septic field, but certainly a lot of places, including our own facilities, have grassy areas that are over leach fields. Or in this case, this is likely to be off of their leach field on the side. In either case, Chip has been very agreeable to this conversation. I wanted to make sure we don't have this is not approval, this is a set motion authorizing completion of it because they're undergoing their legal review right now. And so I suspect there may be some changes to it. I think the essence of it, as far as the overall concept, is to us have a long-term lease at exceedingly low rate that we can then use for our play field, which will then in turn reduce our costs of development for the Lake Ridge Park property. And I think it adds to a better design. So if you kind of think of the curb appeal, if you will, on this facility, instead of having 2 empty fields that won't be utilized, would just be basically mowed annually or semi-annually, they would be park facilities. And so I think it adds to a lot more to the aesthetics coming off of Lake Ridge. Makes for a more compact footprint and I think easier development for all the way around. I think the fact that they've been agreeable and cooperative on this effort too speaks well to our cooperation so far that we've had with them. So in talking with them yesterday, I don't foresee any challenges on this and would look for the board to provide authorization for me to finish the agreement. Marcia, our legal counsel, has reviewed the initial one, the draft one that was given to them for review, so that it's in their hands right now. So she's had her okay is implicit with providing that to them. Happy to answer any questions you might have. And once I give you a little sense as to once this is approved, we'll dive down into the technical details on what's the exact location and the configuration of the field and so forth. But I think that this gets us into that conceptual approval, contractual approval, lease agreement that we can then start working on with them.
Board questions?
Does this lease term cover the entire performance period for the state parks grant?
Good question. Yes, it does.
And I would clarify that those APNs have changed after they gifted us that piece of land behind the ditch. So I have the new ones, but just make sure that everything is, again, looked over carefully. And I assume that Chip will also be looking that over.
Yeah. And we will have, we could share it the next, if we get it done before the next meeting, we could actually share the exhibits too. So I think that would be helpful for everyone to see what it looks like. Thank you for that.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing no other questions, then we'll open it to the public. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak to this agenda item, item 6.2, Lake Ridge Park land lease with Chip? All right, it's afternoon silence. Okay. So we'll bring it back to the board. What's the pleasure of the board? Hopefully we'll entertain an action today.
I would clarify that a notice of correction was recently filed by Michael Mays from North Star as to what the impediments on this piece of property are. That the initial Skyway Plaza would have forbidden the leach field, for example, and it was clarified that is no longer the case. Just so that everyone is aware that recently this document was filed clarifying what the permitted uses are. There is still it affects the portion that's behind the ditch. I don't think the portion in front of the ditch was not similarly encumbered in the original subdivision map, but we and Chip are listed in the recorded document.
When did you become
Yesterday after.
Just yesterday. So this is fairly recent.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't immediately affect the question at hand today as far as the lease, right? But it ultimately affects the ultimate disposition of the
Right.
property in question.
Just
Okay.
clarifying that. But I do agree that making both lots 20 and 21 available to the public for recreation would be a benefit to the Upper Ridge community. And I would move to authorize the district manager to finalize the agreement.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second to that motion? Very good. Madam Clerk, we have a motion that's been made and seconded. We have a roll call vote, please.
Director John Stonebreaker.
Aye.
Secretary Jolene Levy.
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Steve Rodwick. And Chairperson Alma Green.
Aye.
Motion carries with 4 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving right on, making record pace here. Item 7.1, the recreation evaluation. Is there going to be a verbal presentation in conjunction with this? It's a lengthy document. Hopefully all the board members read it. I was impressed. It was very well structured.
Yeah, I'll kick off a little bit and then
Okay.
we'll have Jeff and Scott comment on it. So last few years, we've been intending this just feedback review. It set in motion our expectations, how the year went, and then also give us a chance to sort of set some goals for next year. And so kind of tighten up that feedback loop that I think has been out there that we think about, but it seemed important to share that with the board, have us have a document that we can refer to during the year. So last couple of years, we've, and this starts, by the way, on page 44. So we walk through each program, have that description, a little expectations and goals, the milestones and accomplishments. Participation is very important for us. I'm fond of saying that we're a bottom line organization. It's not just revenue for us, but participation and what it means for the community is really important. So is that revenue and expenses. So that's on there. And then an analysis. We're tightening up our approach each time. I suspect next year you'll see a reduced in size document. So we appreciate the feedback we get from board members. But I think that the overall approach is for us to lay out what our programs are, our direction, and then kind of some high-level accomplishments. I think it's been very helpful for us, and we haven't fully utilized it, to share this with our staff. If we have onboarding with new staff, they can look at and see where we've come from, where we're going. One thing that'll be a little bit different, I'll call attention to, we've had probably fingerprints across our recreation program related to the Neighbor to Neighbor grant. And so that's being wrapped up now. Interestingly, that did show up as events and some of the partnerships and all of that. It's a little bit more subtle on the revenue side because that comes on not rec program income, but it falls under our grant reimbursement income. So that is something that we'll have to tease out and show. But that $750K grant is coming to an end. We're sad to see it going, but it did kick off quite a few partnerships that I think are important. I thank you for looking at that, by the way, Mr. Chair. But I asked our rec supervisors to give a very high-level description of some highlights, some areas for improvement or challenges, and then kind of plans for next year. So I think they look like they're ready for that.
Good afternoon. I'll go ahead and start off. So yeah, what you have in front of you is the 2025 recreation program evaluation. And Scott and I are really proud of it. It's a lot of work went into it. It's a long document. We're not just proud of the report, but of all the work that went into the programming that the report is about. You know, it's kind of almost overwhelming to look back at the whole year and all the different things we do, you know, for the size of our staff and touch on a lot of different areas. It wasn't just Scott and I that put this together. Obviously, Sophia participated with the volunteer area of it. Christy with information on the Neighbor to Neighbor. Catherine with a lot of the numbers. Dan on a lot of feedback and other staff as well. The different sections of the report, hopefully you had a chance to read it or at least kind of look through it, but the way it's set up, it goes through the different recreation categories, those being aquatics, camps, classes, events, excursions, and sports. And then it gets into facilities, the volunteer program, like I mentioned, marketing, and then at the end, a year-to-year financial comparison, and finally, evaluations, where we kind of touched on a bunch of the evaluations from last year that will be ongoing. I'm going to turn it over to Scott here in a second, and then hopefully we'll have some Q&A after that.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, we love this. 30 pages. 3-4 years ago, we didn't do a report like this. So 30 pages is a heck of a lift at this time of the year because we also have the activity guide going, and we're in the year of the programs that are quickly approaching us. So this year, as Dan mentioned, as Jeff echoed, and what I think one of the big triumphs is that we're really focusing on the purpose of the document to both serve the board as well as serve as an internal litmus year to year, showing our growth, specifically the recommendations we make year to year. We want to show you what we're working on, what we've learned. And a lot of those recommendations come from you all and then get integrated into feedback for our programs, It seems to be a process that keeps getting tighter and tighter and just demonstrates the growth year in and year out. Networking Neighbors is one of the highlights. It touched everything that we did for the last 2 years. Christy highlighted for us there were 579 programs run, events. Did I hear a woo? That's right, 579. And that's in addition to the 36 that are run in-house by staff. So one of the things that a clinical evaluation of that looks like, we could not have run 579 programs in-house. And boy, what an interesting method at scaling and essentially allowing the public to serve themselves through our seed money and through our processes. We're going to carry that forward in some of the other things that we're doing around here with the onboarding of the PCC. We've got a grant that has seed money for that right now. And we've learned lessons through the Networking Neighborhoods grant that it's in our best interest to help scale by helping the public do what they want to do, offer the classes that they want to offer, and then helping them do that. That's the only way that we're going to expand to meet the PCC incoming, Lake Ridge, the pool building, and then of course filling the sites that we already have. Also, in that, I would say the networking neighborhood realm, it was overwhelmingly positive. It also took a lot of resources that would be normally used for something else. So we're looking forward to getting those resources back. Very specifically, marketing. Marketing is year in and year out. When we do this report, we find that marketing is something else that touches everything. The more marketing we do, the more people show up. The more people show up, the better that reports. The better it reports, the more resources we put towards it year in and year out. So we're seeing this ecosystem continuing to loop into itself with better and better information year in and year out. Some of the information that I'd like to highlight, the Spring Valley program and the Elements program, both of which are under the EX4 spending category or financial category. Both of those through rubrics and internal reflection, some of the things we noticed is that, first of all, financially, they're doing quite well. Second of all, they gave us a mirror for introspection on how we can serve the public for what they may not know they need, but once it's upon us, they will. And that is medical training and being medically oriented, putting safety way out in front as we work through the Spring Valley program and as we work through the Elements program. Now we're integrating medical training both for our staff and for our seasonal staff so that we're beyond reproach, that we're putting safety first. Just yesterday, we were out at Paradise Lake with CAL FIRE for our first scenario-based training. One of our sweet staff members broke their leg. Did not. CAL FIRE was there to help with us. They were fantastic. See more of that. Expect to see more of that from us, working with trained medical personnel. The last thing I'll say is cost recovery. I went to that financial sustainability training a couple of years ago now. It's been long enough that we're seeing the implementation of those concepts in our programs, specifically through the leisure manual and the user experience. Looking at the leisure manual that was on our strategic plan this year. We revamped it to be a little more punchy, a little bit more visually, I guess you'd say, attractive. The old one was built in the 80s and kind of looked like it. So now with a new leisure manual and working with Rec Tech for the updated user experience, we're all systems go for a great 2026, of which feels like we're already deep into. Look forward to those changes having big results, both in participation as well as financially. And we'd love to answer questions and discuss.
So with regards to the sunset of the network to network grant, neighbor to neighbor grant, do we have like a grand finale planned? previous meetings, it was suggested there might be something to sort of bookend it with the kickoff that we had in September of 24.
Let's kick that to Dan. What are your visions? What are your visions for that, Dan?
We talked about doing something on the end here. I'll defer to Christy. I think really we've run out of time on this. And so we would like to have that kind of send off celebration. I just think that window for us probably has passed with the demise of the funding here imminent. Christy, you have anything on? No. We will have a report. Grand finale for you guys is that we will have a updated report in April. I think we scheduled for to go through it. One of the things that we had, the executive director for California Volunteers was here last week. We got to meet with her in person. Was given the information. We're kind of out of the 9 applicants. We're the gold star. We're kind of premium level on the number of participants we've had, which is remarkable. We're probably the most rural out of the 8 or 9 recipients. And I think importantly was the number of partnerships. They were kind of blown away by the number of events and how we manage the partners. And I think that from the beginning, we had this approach that we were going to act organizationally like a good neighbor. And we wanted to reach out to others and have them help us with this opportunity. And we'll see what happens in the future. But I think my sense is, in feedback wise, it's going to pay dividends for us because people are thinking about how to partner with us and how do we carry on some of these efforts that had some really nice venture capital to start the program the first year, but we'll have to be more creative on pushing it forward in the future. But it was definitely seemed worth it. So I think there's going to be a lot of things coming up out of that in the future.
I would also ask, and with regards to the cost recovery model and a possible change to rental schedules, it would be useful to have a breakdown of fixed costs versus variable costs. So, for example, aquatics and sports might not be full cost recovery because a lot of those costs are fixed costs. It costs money to own the ball field, whether we fallow it or not. It costs money to own the pool, whether anyone's going to be swimming in it or not. And if we're looking at charging people to use our facilities, we want to make sure that the public is only being charged for the additional cost of running these programs, that we don't want to be making the users pay for the fixed costs of these assets.
Yeah, it's challenging because we do have kind of some of the, I'll give you a good example, and Jeff's probably thinking of it already, right? The pool. We tend to have the pool costs that are folded into this, but when we run a judo class in here, we're not providing the cost of running the building or maintaining the HVAC system. And so I think there are some things on that. It becomes a struggle to tease it out too much. I think what we might go towards, and this is something we'll probably discuss in the Finance Committee next couple of years, kind of an equivalent report that would be tied into our facilities. So the idea would be, I don't know if we could separate it out that fine tooth that we could figure out if the Little League uses on a Tuesday night and the lights are on. There's some calculations there, but it's really hard to get down to how much, what's our depreciation of those backstops and everything else on there. So but I think we can do it by facility and what those costs are and kind of see, is our investment in some of these facilities commensurate with the amount of revenue or public enjoyment. In some cases, well, most cases for us, almost every facility we have is subsidized for the public. They're not paying full costs of that facility. And we will see that in some of our rates, for example, are very discounted. But that's the community that we're serving, and that was past choice of the board and all of that. So those fees undoubtedly are going to be updated in the near future. But I think it's a little hard to kind of, I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are, but to put too much into here may be difficult. And I would almost wonder at this point, we have a facility report that kind of goes to that and then dive into those costs and numbers and solutions might be a better approach.
I've got something for you, Director Stonebreaker. One of the things that is challenging about this report is we get our numbers from Catherine and QuickBooks, through P&Ls. We also get a lot of numbers through Sportsman. And with the incoming change to the recreation software that is much, much deeper reporting capabilities, I think that some of this will naturally, just through the system of setting up the new software, we're going to have to take a look at how we associate costs. And simply that process itself will provide some clarity both in our reporting as well as once we understand the depth of reporting prowess that has, we can probably build in some more recommendations or things that you all would like to see.
Yeah.
So I don't want to promise too much in that we don't understand all the ins and outs of it. And there's a reason we went with this new program, because the reporting can only help us, specifically in costing our stuff.
That's a really good point, because a couple years ago, not that long ago, we wouldn't have been able to give this kind of detailed cost breakdown on even our staff time.
Yeah.
So, we're kind of moving towards that. And I think that feedback on like what additional information would be useful for the board is helpful. Scott mentions, like, I think our revenue streams out of rentals and that type of thing will be easier to tease out from the new system.
Yeah, it's not just for the board, but also for taxpayers who are looking at this to make clear that it's not like we're, subsidizing 75% of the cost of the swimmers and they need to be paying $20 a session to go swim. That having the swimmers in the pool is a minor additional expense when you're already, paying to keep it chlorinated and all of that. So, the way that this is broken down, it looks as though like we're losing money on the sports and losing money on the aquatics, and I don't see it that way. And I would just like to have this presented in a way that might be more evident to the public. Thank you.
Director, key phrasing and linguistics that I have grown to adopt, specifically through the cost offsetting and through that training I went through, is we don't spend money, we invest it, right? So I think that being kind to ourselves in that language really changes how we move as supervisors as well. And I really like that this report puts us on our toes to take a very stern look at how we're investing the public's funding, as opposed to spending it, because we don't spend it.
Right, agree. So there's a certain, from my perspective as one board member, there's a certain amount which is being invested by the taxpayers in the maintenance of these assets. And then there are additional user fees for the users of these facilities. And if just in the next report or to the finance committee, when the facilities report comes out, just to make that more clear in case it leads to any further direction from the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
An additional comment, this is a great report. Are we considering, it's a public report, are we considering sharing it with our partners? The more they know, the more they appreciate and understand, what we go through on a day-to-day basis with regard to keeping these programs functioning. So,
it's on our, as part of the packet.
Right.
It's out there, but we could easily put
put a link to it.
separate out the reports for each year and put it in our document. So maybe Sonny, maybe you make a note of that. I think let's take the last couple of years of these and just put them in our document section online.
Director Rodwick, my knee-jerk reaction is to say, I want more pictures in it before we do that. Like, we've got 3 years of back-to-back data now. Next year, when we start putting graphs in, the graphs will have enough data points to show trends. So 3 years of trends, we're getting there. But 4 to 5 years of trends, I remember seeing a card report that had 4 or 5 years of trends, and it looked really good with 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So I think
Jazz it up.
that's it. We're looking to jazz it up with more pictures in coming years.
And I think one other thing this is really kind of diving under the hood, which I think is useful for me and our staff. But I think there's probably a desire to have I would say, more of an annual report style. Yeah, summary that has overall participation numbers and not broken up by program. We can highlight some of those things, but I think that may be a 4 or 5 page summary. And we did talk about this year, but I think it's just sort of, we wanted to get it before the board as it stands. This information is probably going to sit in the background of any report anyway, for us, because I think it's been valuable, but it's probably going to be a more compressed, colorful form in the future.
You know, Director, Jeff and I have been talking about, as part of the PCC, as part of that block grant, there's a newsletter component of that. And the in-house software that we have currently managing our websites has a newsletter function now that we're kind of catching up on. As we continue to put effort towards that form of standardized outreach, I think that's the place that something like that lives. So expect that in the next couple of years as well. Thank you.
Director Levy, do you have any comments or questions you want to share with the staff on this lucrative report?
I do not. It was a great report.
Well, I want to personally commend all the staff and the hard work that you've done on not this annual report. This is the second year of this particular form, actually third year. I think it's a long overdue tool that I'm really proud that you've generated that. And I think it's going to pay us a lot of dividends in the long term. I would like to suggest, and I don't know how the rest of the board would feel about this, but there are contents in this report that I think are germane to when the staff's talking about overall evaluation as well as intended suggested solutions on whatever you've evaluated, that maybe you utilize that type of information with some of our standing committees during the course of a calendar year as you pursue some of those solutions. And the two committees that come to mind obviously is Rec and Park as well as Finance. And I don't know how the rest of the board feels like that, but I think allowing that level of deep dive on those issues better perfects this board ultimately to be able to make some good policy decisions based on what the outcome of those efforts are. But that's a suggestion I have. But
Just a clarifying question on that. Do you foresee that, for example, we have that detailed report related to the pools. Is that what you would see going to committee, or would you say looking at one of these programs and diving into it a little more detail at one or both committees? How do you see it kind of playing out?
actually, I would leave that to your judgment as staff. But I mean, there are different aspects in this report where I think you'll see right away, depending upon your staffing levels, your amount of workload at a given time of the year, whether or not it's timely to utilize one or two of these committees to do more in-depth on a few things. A good example, this is kind of maybe too broad, but there's an overlying issue has nothing to do with us locally that we've inherited from our insurance provider. And that was pointed out in this report is, our user public is taken back with the fact that we're requiring when they want to rent a facility from time to time, depending upon the nature of how they want to rent it and use it, that they have to provide their own insurance as well in conjunction with our own. That is still a hard lesson for them to adapt to. And I know where you're experiencing at staff level repercussions with that. And yet you've got some things in here saying, let's explore some things. Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's one example of something you could do along with a standing committee or two to see what you find.
Al? Yeah. I'm hearing that's, if we were to split the report into usages, there's the board report and then there's the internal facing recommendations. It sounds like one of the filters you're asking us when we complete the report is to say, if we were to add another column, could this be a recommendation or could this end up in committee? That, as far as adding that into our system, that sounds fantastic. And that fits in our flow in that we're already asking, how are we going to solve a lot of this? And in a lot of cases, it's those solutions might be in committee as opposed to at staff level. Dan, is that?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. When it's just sitting in the back of my mind is this idea of one of the reasons why we wanted to do this. It's real easy for us, the normal cycle of things, to go through the entire year and then sort of take a breath at some point, take in another, blow that out, take in a new breath, and then you're on to the next year or season. And so I felt it was important for us to pause, kind of on a calendar year basis, because that's when we kind of dip down. The aquatics program is a season, not a fiscal year, latter half of the pool and the first part of the next, which I think can mask some changes that we might have made in direction. And then I think it helps inform us on our budget and stuff. So I think that your suggestion on that, we'll see how it fits into the year, but I think there may be some opportunities for us to think about what is some good information for the board to help with a future decision that's coming up. And that's kind of the lens I think we'd want to look at it, but appreciate the comment.
Any other comments from the board?
Just, I get allowed one in the weeds question. And miscellaneous events, no expenses?
Yes, I got it.
So
What page is that?
pull that up.
Page 51, 225 summary.
Yeah. So miss events. So great catch. We were prepared for this question. Almost all of those events this year folded into networking neighbors. So they read no income just as they read
free.
no expense just as so they fell under networking neighbors.
Okay.
Yeah. And in future years, there will not be zeros there because we plan on taking a good look at how we run Fall Family Fun Fest, Kids Free Disc Golf Day, the Harvest Fest. There's a few of them that were deeply rooted into being funded by networking neighbors. So we're going to have to
take a look at it.
Thank you.
This is unusual, but do we want to ask for any input from the attending public on your recreation evaluation report? I don't know. Hearing silence behind you, so I guess not. Again, I can't help you, commend you all. I mean, this is a yeoman's job, and I'm really proud of this tool, associated with our district. I don't know how many other districts do this, but I think we're on the right track, quite frankly, and we're going to better serve our public by doing so. So thank you both, gentlemen. Staff and board members, we're going to have to go into closed session at 3 o'clock. If that clock is accurate, we've only got about maybe 7 minutes of dialogue if we want to start with the district report. I'll leave this your own volition. Would you rather take a break for 6 minutes and then declare going into closed session, or do you want to just start with the district report and then stop at the anointed hour to go into closed session?
I think given that we have a hard start time for our 3 o'clock meeting with people that are going to join us, that we take that time for a little break and clear the room.
Concur.
That's where okay. So at this point in time, we're going to declare a break, and when we reconvene, we'll announce going into closed session. So at this point in time, forgot about that. We let the record show that we've reconvened in open session, and at this point in time, we have to go into closed session. The board's going to meet in closed session pursuant to California Government Code Section 549-569D4 to discuss anticipated litigation. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're back into open session, and at this point in time, as chair of the board, I need to report as we're coming out of closed session back into open session that the board met pursuant to California Government Code Section 549-589D4 relative to anticipated litigation, and upon conclusion of our closed session, direction was given by the board to staff. So, back on open session, we're about to engage in our dialogue on our district report, and I see we have a handful of staff members here that can augment the report. We've received copies of it in writing for what we refer to as our district monthly report. All board members received a copy of that electronically, as well as hard copies if they so requested. So, Dan, you want to kick that off, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things I'll highlight. We have been receiving complaints of aggressive dog at the dog park. So we have installed some additional signs. It's pretty challenging. So we're, really relying on people and their dogs' best behavior, mostly the people. And so, if you guys hear anything, I know we have very plugged into the pet community around here. Let us know, and that might help us get some information out, and exploring some other policies that might be related to it. Director Stonebreaker at the last meeting had made comment about the zoning change that a landowner had requested. And I just want to give some follow-up information on that. So there's a report and then a hyperlinks to the county report and so forth on there. We have attached all of our routine reports. We are going to kick off our finance committee meeting with some budget information, hopefully end of this month, on our preliminary budget. So we'll be sharing that.
I was told it was the afternoon of the 26th.
Yeah. I think actually can you remind me what was on that agenda? Okay, I think it's the budget. I think there's possibly the Nexus study at that meeting, or is it the following? Okay. Yeah. So we'll have a.
Yeah, staff is aware that I have many other obligations on that day. And the initial suggestion for 3:00 was not great. And I did not respond promptly because I don't think that I could have been appropriately civil. And then I was simply told that it had been scheduled.
Director Stonebreaker, I would hope you could be appropriately civil. We're just talking about a schedule, and we definitely want your input on that. So
I would be happy to have, if you want me to have that conversation now in the public record, I will do so, but I would rather have that conversation after adjournment.
I'm not sure I understand.
Okay, well, not only as regards Sylvia Thompson's rezone, but other events, staff is well aware that I have conflicting meetings both on the morning of the fourth Thursday and on the evening of the fourth Thursday. And when in both February and March of last year, staff chose to reschedule the Finance Committee meeting for the afternoon of the fourth Thursday. At one point, I told you that 1:00 was going to be difficult. If that is the decision that staff has made, I can be here at 1:00, but you already know that that is difficult.
So I believe on regular practice here, our board clerk reaches out to all of our members prior to a meeting to make sure that they can attend. And so if it's not convenient to you, or if you have a suggested time, we'd welcome that comment, but I don't believe she got that response.
The meeting has been scheduled and I will be present at 1:00.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. You might notice on the balance sheet, there are some additions to our additions related to Paradise Community Center and the Butte Creek Canyon properties. So our balance sheet will indicate that on there, so that will be in there going forward. We'd love to get out. Mark has some good information here on some responses to different things that are going on. But we are gearing up to hire a trails and vegetation crew. So we're looking about a crew of 4 to 6. We'd love to have folks that are, it's the whole long hours, low pay, hard work, and probably a lot of fun. So, we're looking for a very robust crew that's going to help us through not only this summer, but into the fall. And so that's going to be coming up. If you know anyone or want to help get the word out, we would definitely welcome it. Sarah, I think you're helping with that recruitment, right?
Yeah, we haven't started yet. Mark's at a conference, but I believe next week when he gets back, we'll start hammering down on that. We've already got one application though.
Scott, do you want to update on the recreation part or breeze through it here on? I was going to mention just one thing on the Ridge Hiking Association, that we are working on a long-term agreement with them, with Paradise Stronger, to kind of maintain and keep this up over the future. So that's in the works, and I'll be coming back to the board and probably next 6 months or so. Scotty.
Long time no see, y'all. Highlights, the Healing Trauma Through Nature program is soaring, continuing to book programming with the Butte County Office of Education schools, tightening up contracts with them. We'll have a little bit of that forthcoming in either, I think, next month. And then the Elements program is closing. That was a $300,000 grant program through Youth Community Access Prop 64 that was the origin of what brought Dan and I together all these years ago. Now that program is sunsetting. In not speaking for Kelly Munson, she'll be here to do so, and we've heard from the Elements group several times. It's just been an incredibly impactful program for the participants, for the staff, and again, leaning into the last couple of weeks and the last month of the program. She did everything she could to utilize as much of the grant funding as possible. One of the neat things we were able to do is host a medical training for those participants that now may have created a pathway towards being summer staff for us as well. So a lot of the participants from the Elements program are looking for summer work, and now that they've been through the program, it's very likely they'll be highly qualified. Connor, keep going down. We expect more training in that realm. We'll just keep updating you on that. And outreach, you are all privy to a magazine style activity guide. It's on your desks right now. I took the pleasure of delivering it personally because it's something we're very proud of. And we have so many other things going on. We had that big report. The person that normally does that is our events and marketing person. And as we did not have that person this year, it was me, along with the help of Sarah and Jeff. It is a big lift, especially for someone that's a rec supervisor that also happens to be able to do this. So we're just really, really proud of how far it's come along. I think for perspective, we should, next time we pull out an activity guide, we'll show you what they looked like before the changing of the guard, to give you perspective on how far we've come, because they're very colorful. And as you can see as well, the cover has Dan's fingerprints on it. Dan wanted a more magazine style, which includes the shiny cover. And we're always looking for feedback on that type of thing. We hope you like it. You can find them all over town. We have a really neat distribution system in place now. And you can also find them out in front of the Terry Ash Center here. Oh, we'll have another one out for you in about 5 or 6 months. In the meantime, we're going to get to work on I guess you'd say running the programs that are all in there. And that is pretty much it for for the recreation report. Unless you want to see some of the pictures. Connor, will you zoom down to the pictures down there? Sophia's done a great job of sending in pictures. Keep going down, pal. There's a couple of pictures in there of the volunteer group. There's the Ridge Hiking Association in the snow. Super proud of that. Keep going down. There's the groups out working on seed balls. That program, the volunteer program, just continues to be something we like to stand behind as one of our flagship programs. Doom the Broom is out there as well. Sophia's been very active this time of year because everything green is growing. So you'll expect to see a lot of action from the volunteer program in the coming weeks. And I'd love to answer any questions.
Will the Elements participants still be meeting this month, March?
No.
No, they're done.
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
The next, Elements is currently applying for several different grants. in order to keep that rolling. And we haven't made any medium or long-term decisions on what that program looks like just yet. If a whole bunch of money shows up, that'll probably change our path. Thank you, John.
Or even modest amounts of money. So we're
Yeah.
trying to figure out how it can roll out, even if it's a little bit more subdued of a program, but just kind of keep the momentum going, because I think it's been very impactful on our students. And I think it's been very positive for us to work with Kelly Munson on this. That report's next month. the
Yep.
following month?
That's what I was about
Next
to say.
month. So we'll get an elements report next month.
Yep.
I will add, as far as trends go on our approach on our activity guide, I think circa 5 years ago or more, that a lot of districts were going away from print, period. And we knew that in our area that wasn't likely to be as popular or favorable. But I do see us shifting, especially with our new registration and rental program. We did sign the Rec Tech, by the way, agreement this week. This week. It seemed like last week, but so that we got that authorization. We cleaned up the agreement, have that signed. We'll be kicking that off. But I think as we kind of shift to that and the community becomes more comfortable with it, this will probably shift to maybe it becomes an annual publication where we talk about programs, but not schedules. So we can have more articles about what a certain program might entail and how to get involved. But it would have less of the calendar aspect to it and kind of divert people to the web on it. So we'll keep you posted on that. Certainly looking for feedback as we go. Thank you.
Dan,
Thank
you
you,
also, you mentioned that the activity guide is continuing to morph and change. This year, this past round, we had more people reach out to us for advertising than we have in the previous 5-6 years, which is something that used to cost offset the activity guide. And it's something that we may be interested in because it's not cheap to put out, and it may provide a great service to those that don't have the marketing budget. So something to also consider as the activity guide continues to change.
So that thanks for bringing that out. That might be something to have some feedback from the board. Our district used to do activity guide that had advertising in the back, and it would offset completely the publication of it. The printer would manage that. But as it started to go over time, it became more of an advertising insert than actually about 40% of it was ads. And post campfire, for a variety of reasons, we decided to keep it pure from advertising and take it all in-house. I think it had kind of really upped the content on it, but we did lose that revenue, that cost offset. So that might be worth discussing now, because there are businesses that have returned back up here, more advertising is possible. And yet that may be something we may not want to commercialize, water down our message by having advertising that's in there that's not directing to parks, recreation, and getting outside or going inside and recreating. So anyway, happy to get feedback on that another time. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Sophia has a few pictures in here on some Doom the Broom activities. The neighbor to neighbor stuff's been really a shot in the arm on those programs. We have good numbers and a very active crew that goes out on a regular basis. So I think that's just going to continue for us. One thing that we've been exploring, and it seems to get some favorable traction, is the idea of a volunteer appreciation dinner that would be not only our volunteers, but various organizations, on the ridge and throughout our district. Kind of put it out a little bit timidly to different groups at first, but it seemed to have a lot of traction. So we're going to try and put together an inaugural event. Probably would need that help of our new incoming, who we have yet to determine who that is, events person. But I think it'd be really nice to have an inaugural event sometime in the fall at the community center, which is kind of a home of volunteer efforts. So we're trying to see what that looks like. If you guys, through your contacts, community, have ideas on who might be interested, the way I see it working is that each organization could have their own volunteer of the year or recognize an organization in the community. And then there's some sort of, as yet to be determined, committee made up of different folks in the community that would name an overall volunteer of the year organization that would be recognized. And definitely wide open to any input on it, but it seems to resonate with people. They seem to like that idea quite a bit for us to recognize those folks. There's costs associated with it. So if we do it without any help, it's probably cookies and bubbly water. But if we have some help, maybe we can utilize that kitchen. Maybe there's a caterer, maybe it's something else. I'm a little bit shy on making it sort of a gala type event. I would love the volunteers to come and be recognized and not have to, someone else is volunteering that evening for them. So anyway, talk to me offline on what suggestions you might have on that. We give a little bit of a project development update. I believe at our next Rec and Park Committee meeting, we'll have Nick Trover to give some more details on where we're at with different things. We're working with Fire Safe Council on a couple of fuel reduction projects, Oak Creek, Noble, and then also Koodalink. And so they were able to get some permissions from their funding source, SNC, Sierra Nevada Conservancy, on that. So we'll be following up with some information on that coming up here shortly. The focus is on dead and down hazardous fuels on the ground. We just completed, hit send, I believe yesterday, on a hazard mitigation grant program. We're a sub-applicant on the state of California's grant. And so we'll find out how that goes in the next few months. That certainly would come back to the board for consideration if approved. Just a couple of upcoming notes. We have our collaboration with the Thermalito Water and Sewer District. They would like to kick that off and later on this year. So we're going to have a kind of a pre-planning kickoff meeting with them later on this year. We're scheduling that right now. Expect in the next few meetings here are an RFP, request for proposals for our Billy Park enhancements. It looks like the project's ready to go and we're ready to seek out some bids. So that'll be coming up here shortly. And then I did notice on here, it says Nexus Study Finance Committee in April or May. Okay.
April 16th.
Okay.
Finance Committee meeting.
So April 16th, we'll get an update on Nexus Study. And what I expect there is a schedule and some of the questions. We had posed some unique questions to our area. So we'll review those there, review our schedule, and then see if we can start putting it on our overall board meeting agenda list. There's a bunch of other stuff going on too. One thing that didn't make it in here, it would be on the next meeting, but some pictures and a recap on our Good Fire workshop that occurred on February 28th. So a smaller group, capped at 30, but good feedback again for the smaller event. We're going to regroup. We're going to try and host an event in the fall that will be with the same sort of partners and model it on the round that we had in November for the Good Fire Festival then. So have similar partners, workshops, and each time they're a little bit different, but we'll see if we can get some more, some new partners and new information. And I could see this evolving over time with our district. Maybe it's at different sites, different partners, but it seems to have a lot of positive reviews on people that have been at these events so far.
Does that conclude the
That
district
concludes
report?
my report.
Do board members have any questions or comments on the monthly district report?
I guess I can just say now that I was not aware of the Good Fire Festival on the 28th until the following afternoon, that the district event schedule is a bit bare compared to what it had been in 2025. So someone in staff can get that information online so that interested participants would be aware in advance.
You know, I think part of that was, we didn't have the date settled with our partners until late. And then it capped. So it was capped at 30. We had it filled up. And so that we didn't push it out very hard.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate looking on there too. So.
No one else? Okay, that concludes our discussion on the district report. We're now at the real fun and games part of our meeting called board comments. And this is typically we as board members share with the other board members what's been going on with things that we're assigned to outside of our district that may be of pertinence to the district itself. Case in point, for instance, for example, and a lot of the board members know this, I serve on the state board for Park and Rec District. So if something's happening with them, which is called CARPID, that's our acronym for it, I like to share that with you folks when we have our regular meetings here. So with that in mind, why don't we start with you, John? Is anything you got to share or report this past month since our last board meeting that's pertinent to us?
Well, I spent the AM hours of the 19th incrementally shoveling snow so that I would be able to get out and get down here. Found out a bit late that that meeting was not going to occur. Been to too many meetings of late. So I had a very good presentation on the evening of the 26th, where we got to talk about the Zone 0 regulations and get feedback from our community. The consensus was that the Upper Ridge would like to keep the tree canopy that we still have. Earlier that day, I had attended the BCAG meeting in preference to the Planning Commission meeting, had to submit only written comment regarding the incompleteness of the annual housing element progress report. So I do look forward to the complete report being presented this month as relevant to the operations of this district. The recovery in Magalia and in the unincorporated Campfire Scar has significantly slowed, even while the pace has been kept up here in town. And so that we should be aware of that projections for the recovery might be a bit grim. Last week, I had the opportunity to attend the Sierra Nevada Conservancy board tour. So a number of their board members and a number of their staffers came up to Butte County, although Supervisor Teeter tried to encourage them to come here into the Campfire Scar. We were instead shown the Park Fire instead. And at the end of the tour, Katie Simmons from County Administration declined to speak on the requested topic of resilience and gave some harrowing statistics about the lack of recovery in the unincorporated Campfire Scar and in the unincorporated Northern Complex Scar. Additionally, on that tour, Eli Goodsell from the Big Chico Creek Ecological Reserve referred to the day that most of it burned, July 25th, as day 2 of the park fire. And then someone else who should have known better referred to November 9th, the day most of Magalia burned, as the day after the campfire. So I had some things to say about that. I don't know that we've really seen after the campfire. It feels as though we are still very much in its midst. But not all other entities and agencies within this county see things the same way. And that's something that we here need to be aware of.
Thank you for all that. Now, you still participate with the Upper Ridge Coordinating Council, do you?
Yes, right. So that was the presentation that I gave
So,
on the 26th.
okay, that was part of that. So when you brought up the subject about the zero.
So the Board of Forestry was given a mandate by the governor after the Los Angeles fires in January of 25 to come up with new rulemaking for what would be Zone 0, or the 0 to 5 foot zone. So they have been given directions from the legislature to come up with rules for an ember-resistant zone around structures. And the insurance underwriters have been trying to press for that to be a completely non-combustible zone 0. And they got pushback from Southern California, partly in regards to the Office of State Fire Marshal's recent redesignation of a lot of areas as very high fire hazard severity, which means that even if they're an LRA, they would fall under the PRC. And so because of that, their intended path has been halted, and it was supposed to be on the today's agenda, the March 11th agenda, but they've chosen to push it back. And earlier today, I was told that it might not even come up again until June. So we wanted to be able to write on behalf of our organization rather than as individual citizens to please select the option which would allow retaining trees and well-maintained vegetation in proximity to homes, even if the town has its own regulations that would override that. But there are other areas, then that I can go on quite some length, but for
My question was, I didn't need the deep dive, but anyway.
sorry.
My question was relative to, was this a presentation that came up at the Upper Ridge Court?
That's right. That's what it was.
That's what I was trying to get you to say.
Yes.
More names.
I'm sorry for going on too long.
That's
Yes.
all right.
It's,
Thank
it's
you.
the Board of Forestry's rulemaking. We were trying to get the consensus of the community to be able to write on our own letterhead what the community
Good,
wished.
good. Thank you. That is pertinent because obviously they share the ridge with us. So
Mhm.
thank you. Jolene, you have anything to report on Campfire Collaborative or anything like that?
Yeah, we had our meeting last Friday at Cypress Acres. I was online, but they did a tour there.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a beautiful venue. Lots of updates from our partners, where they're at in the recovery. Still a long ways to go. So lots happening there. Last weekend, we had the Boys and Girls Club cook-off. That was a great event. We were really worried. 2 weeks ago, we only had about 30 tickets sold, and they were hoping for 300, and lots of people came to the door. So we are pretty much at capacity, very last minute. As far as Adventist Health, we just got a new CT machine. We are no more than 45 days out from licensing, so it's with CDPH. As soon as that's licensed, we'll start doing CT at the clinic. About 30 days ago, we had CDPH licensing or survey come in, where the state comes in and goes through a whole survey. There was 0 findings. We are one of the only clinics that had 0 findings throughout the whole preview. And then as far as our Healthy Communities Collaborative, we are hoping to launch our One Thing Today campaign second week in April. So we did, I think they did about 75 videos, went around all over Butte County, getting people to do one thing. So all about health and wellness. So a big launch for health and wellness. We didn't want to do it at the beginning of the year. Lots of stuff happens and then kind of fizzles out. So we were kind of waiting a little bit longer and wanted to make that a huge success. So, yeah.
Thank you, Jolene. Steve.
Okay, I guess a last reminder, our grand reopening ribbon cutting for the expanded Paradise Animal Shelter is April 4th. It's a Saturday from 12 to 3. It's scheduled right after our Easter egg hunt. So after you gather all your eggs, you can bring them over to the animal shelter and share them. It's already on the town rotation, announcing that. And expanded parking, we've got permission from Northern Recycling and Waste Services to use their lot that day. So come on down. Another observation of Paradise Lake. Through what didn't take a whole lot of detective work, it seems like horse activity on the trail is increasing. And just a heads up, I know we don't have any sighting ability. If we do see, or if one of our staff sees somebody riding a horse, they can just ask them to leave, I guess. But, and this is the weekend, I usually am up there, and so county animal control is not active. So just a heads up.
Okay, since the last board meeting we had back on February the 11th, on the very next day, February 12th, myself and Dan FCF had the privilege of participating as members of an interview panel for the interim, for the town manager candidates. They were all interviewed on the 12th of February, and actually there was 3 panels, not just one. But he and I were participants on behalf of one of the panels that was referred to as a community at large panel, more or less. And the other 2 panels, one was a panel consisting of town staff people, and the third panel was 2 members of the council, as well as the interim town manager currently, and the HR director for the town. So that was a very interesting uh, experience. I can't speak what Dan felt about it, but I think we have some good candidates that we had the privilege of interviewing, and that we got to interview 4 candidates, and there was at least 2 out of the 4 that I think were good prime candidates. And my understanding is that's been subsequently reported to the full council, and they conducted interviews of those 4 candidates the following week from the 12th. So I don't know what the outcome of that is, but stay tuned. On February the 17th, I think I alluded to this earlier in the meeting. We were scheduled to have our rec and park committee meeting, but unfortunately, Robert Anderson did not attend. And so we had a member of the public there present, and staff and myself, and we just basically just dialogued on updates in general. There was nothing specific, detail-wise. On the 24th of this month, which is the first Thursday of the month, I attended my Butte LAFCO meeting. And, oh no, excuse me. On the 24th of this month, I attended Butte LAFCO's open house session. And they had an open house because the LAFCO staff is relocated to Chico now instead of Oroville. And the new LAFCO office is located at, I wrote it down, what is it? I want to say Humboldt Road. I think it's 1459 Humboldt Road, in a complex there. And if you're ever in the area and you just want to stop in, and they're open, the staff there, they're a small staff, but they'd be happy to share how that's turned out. On the 3rd of March, as part of my duties with the California Association of Rec and Park Districts, I'm on what's called the Nominations Committee. We had a Zoom meeting, and we as a committee came up with a slate of candidates that will be presented to the entire district membership during the annual conference in the latter part of May, where different offices on the state board are elected. Those that are vacant, that are open, that could be elected, that type of thing. And let's see. And then on the 5th, which was last Thursday, we had our Butte LAFCO meeting, and that was in Oroville in the council chambers there. And essentially that agenda, 2 key things that happened there during that agenda was we had 2 public hearings, the first of which we took final action on a sphere amendment for the Biggs West Gridley Water District. The second public hearing, which we opened and conducted, concerns itself with an MSR update for the city of Gridley. We continued that to the subsequent meeting because we wanted to receive more testimony than what we received that particular Thursday, as well as comments that come in at the late hour from some service entities relative to the city of Gridley that we needed staff to address and share that with us at our next continued meeting. So also, I think that's pretty much it. So thank you for bearing with me, everyone. So at this point in time, we're going to declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all.